and welcome to today's session. Just to introduce us very quickly. So my name is Anna. I'm a product marketing manager here in CloudTalk. And today I have with me Peter here. He's our principal product manager and probably the most knowledgeable person that I know about AI voice agents. Do you want to say hi and introduce yourself, Peter?
Hey, hello everyone. Thanks for joining. So happy to see so many of you here. And yeah, can't wait to share what we're planning for next year regarding the voice agents and regarding a little info about myself so you understand who you're talking to or listening to. I've been with CloudTalk basically since the very beginning. And yes, as Anna mentioned, currently my main focus is the AI voice agent team and their roadmap and future.
All right, here comes the agenda. The first part will be with myself. So I'll just walk us quickly through what's possible today and where AI voice agents can already help your business. And then we'll actually go through each of the capability that they have. And then I'll hand my word over to Peter, and he will take us through the roadmap preview for 2026. And also we'll have a demo of AI Virtual Receptionist. So definitely stay for that part. And at the end, we'll take Q&A, of course. All right, just to start with, I just wanted to have this slide here to remind ourselves actually why we're here and actually why we're seeing in general the AI voice technology booming and being used more and more across industries and for different use cases. And also, I think it's what you'll see in the upcoming years. This technology will be just used increasingly more. The reason is simple. It's because calls are still the highest intent customer channel. But the issue comes when we actually realize that or for most of the teams, we can't really scale our human teams to match the demand one-on-one. It all comes to, again, justifying the cost of your work for your human teams. And there is a lot of work, and I'm talking specifically about tasks that are routine, repetitive, and high in volume, where usually that's not what we want, like how we want our human team to spend their time, right? But it's where AI voice agents come in very handy. So when we take a look at it from the perspective of customer support, we know that the missed calls may equal, like once the customer can't reach you, it may equal to losing that customer. So from the point of your business, it's missed revenue. And from their point of view, it's costing you their customer experience, and it may lead to some frustration, of course. Then if you're in any kind of seasonal business, you may experience sudden spikes in call overflows or sudden spikes in the demand. And you may see your support queues just growing faster. And of course, you can't just adjust your headcount from day to day. You can't just like double your team. And again, if you're not able to cover your inbound queues, it's costing you both revenue and the customers. And if we want to talk about sales, we know that the speed of the sales follow-up is still the #1 conversion lever. In the cases where your sales team can't follow up quickly enough, you know that it may cost you the win or actually loss of that customer. And with that being said, this is why we're talking about AI voice agents, right? First of all, I want to really just frame the fact that AI voice agents are they're not bots, right? And they can really handle real conversations. So they are built on LLMs. They understand the intent and the context with which your client is calling. And they have a certain task, right, to help that client. So that, of course, depends on your use case and on the quality of the prompt that you give to the voice agent. And always, as with any AI technology in general, the more quality the prompt and the information that you give to your voice agent, the better the outcome and the result will be for your clients. Second of all, AI voice agents do not work in isolation. In that way, they would have very low value for your business. They're able to connect to your workflows and data via API. Let's talk more specifically. So for example, if you want to retrieve data from your CRM, or if you want the AI voice agents to book calls for you, they can do that. So they do have different tools that you can use. And third of all, this is something that many businesses struggle with. It's the coverage, right? So in order to match your client expectations today, you do need to or should be able to provide 24/7 coverage. However, it's really difficult to do that because we just don't have the budgets to have 24/7 hires or have global customer support teams. Even with that, humans can get sick, we need breaks, and it's just difficult to provide 24/7 support, which is something very easy for AI voice agents as they don't need to sleep, they don't need to eat. You just set them up and they're ready to help you. All right, I think I'm talking for too long, but you'll need to listen to me for a little bit more because right now we'll go through the current capabilities that the AI voice agents have today. And I feel it's really important to talk about this because right after that, Peter will jump in everything that will be possible very soon. And it's tied, of course, to everything that is possible today. So let's just go through this quickly. First of all, just to remind you, with AI voice agents today, you can either make or receive calls 24/7. So actually we started out with only outbound calls, after which we added inbound calls. For any outbound calls, of course, you need to have the right trigger, which will depend based on your use case. So let's take, for example, a sales pre-qualification use case. So in that case, for example, the trigger would be that the client comes to your website and they fill in the form. For inbound use case, it's, I would say, a little bit simpler. So the AI voice agent step is included in your call flow, of course, along your human agents. And here you can imagine an easy way to talk about this right now is to imagine the voice agent as being your L1 support, for example. And in case the voice agent can provide the information to the customer, the call will end there. Or if in any case the call is needed to be transferred to humans, of course, that's possible. And this way the AI works together with humans. Second of all, we are ongoingly expanding our language library and the language coverage. So at the moment, we are supporting 60 languages with 36 different accents to be able to provide an option that is as close to your customers as we can. Just to highlight a few points here, at the moment, you can already have like multilingual capabilities across your calls. But what is more, I would say, recent improvement is that the voice agent is now able to dynamically switch languages. So imagine a client is speaking in English and then suddenly they switch to Spanish. So the voice agent will be able to do that. What is important here, of course, when you're setting up the voice agent, you will also set up the voice that you want to use. And for each voice which we're offering, which I think it's almost 2,000, it's definitely above 1,500. For each voice, we are specifically telling you which language and which accent it can support. So depending on the voice that you choose, you'll have the option to then also provide this multilingual support for your clients. And of course, this works for both inbound and outbound. Third of all, it's important to say that, of course, voice agents are able to detect voicemail and act accordingly to what you will prompt them, right? So they know when they hit the voicemail, and depending on your instructions, so on the screenshot, what you can see here is actually a screenshot from the real setup of the voice agent where you're prompting the call hang up. So if you would like the voice agent to end the call upon the point where they hit the voicemail, you can say to them. Or if you'd like to leave a message, also, of course, it's possible to put this into the prompt, and in that case, they will just drop a message automatically. All right. Following up with, again, one of more recent and I would say exciting improvements is that until now, of course, it was possible to add the AI voice agent in your inbound call flow, but it was a more static step because either the voice agent would provide the information that you wanted it to provide to the client, or if the client, again, needed to speak to a human, the voice agent would actually transfer the call. But what is possible to do right now, actually, is we are going from static step to a dynamic, multi-stage, and decision-aware call flows. So what this means is that at the moment, once you add the voice agent step in your inbound call flow, so the voice agent can already serve more as a conversational IVR or AI Virtual Receptionist. It's able to transfer and route the call based on the request of your client or prospect calling, right? So you're able to route it either to a specialized team or a specialized agent, or even to other highly specialized voice agents. So what this is enabling you to do is actually to have let's imagine you have a group of highly specialized voice agents, but before that, you have actually a virtual receptionist who is only taking in the context and the intent of your caller, and then is able to actually pass the call and route the call to the next voice agents or human agents. Let me just play that again.
Another cool part about the AI receptionist. So right now, our basic call flow designer goes one simple step. We call into the number, it goes to the voice agent. But something you can do here is add in a condition splitter in case you want this to be more generalist reception. Maybe it should have one line for billing, one line for order inquiries, and one line for upsells. So we can add a splitter. And in here, we can have it route to maybe a more specialized voice agent or to a human for more important conversations. So maybe we want to have all sales calls get vetted by the AI receptionist and go into our sales team. And here we can add a condition where it'll look into the voice agent response. We can select a property. So in this case, we have a default one here, favorite pet. And if it contains a certain value, it goes there.
All right, so basically here you were able to see that based on the client's response, the voice agent would route the call accordingly. Let's quickly talk about, in general, the voice agent tools, but I already mentioned this. So voice agents can really perform tasks for you, such as either to schedule meetings, to either retrieve, confirm data, or update your systems actually during the call. When it comes to call transfers, currently it's possible to do call transfers between the voice agent and humans. And of course, again, it's up to you, whether you're transferring the call to an agent or to a specialized team. And you are also defining the rules for the transfer as well. That would be very quickly for the transfers. Here, we just wanted to highlight that you're able to have exports via API integrations so that any calls, whether it's with humans and now also with AI voice agents, are actually syncing into your stack, right? And you will see all the context, even from AI voice agent calls, alongside the other calls with the customer. And this is the very last slide for me, and that is that we are increasingly trying to give you more visibility and control over AI voice agents, and that also, of course, comes with reporting and analytics. Recent updates when it comes to analytics is that actually you are able to see the voice agent activity and report. If you take a look at the screenshot, so first of all, you have the group report, agent report, and then as a third actually tab there, you can see there's a separate voice agent report where you can actually see all the data about the calls. And you also have dedicated voice agent analytics. And if you are using our conversation intelligence, you're able to actually compare the voice agent performance next to your human team performance. So again, we're just improving all the data that you can see regarding AI. All right, now it's to you, Peter.
Thank you. So just a very quick reminder of how we got where we got. So on the next slide, you can see the roadmap we set at the beginning of this year, basically. And we started doing those webinars, I believe, in June. Back then, as Anna already mentioned, we released some of the basic functionality, outbound, inbound calling, including knowledge bases, actioning with external tools, and doing blind transfers to customers. Since then, we upgraded the voice agents to the state they are in December now, which includes integrations with analytics, multilingual support, and voice agent and call flow designers. The goal here essentially was to make sure that we had the call center functionality, which we've been building for past X years in CloudTalk. We've added the voice agents, but we didn't want them to work separately. We wanted to ensure those work together very well, because we do believe that at least for the foreseeable future, the communication is going to be hybrid. It's not going to be purely voice agents, but it's no longer going to be purely humans. So the hybrid communication, the effective handoff between voice agents and human agents is going to be crucial. And that brings me to the last two items that we have here, which were contextual transfers and integrations with CT Dialer. But we can stay on the 2026 slide because that's what evolved into our first half of 2026. We're going to start with virtual receptionist, but I'm not going to go deeper there because the rest of my presentation is deep diving into that one and explaining all the differences. But other than that, the rest of the roadmap is heavily tied to making sure you can benefit from all of the call center functionalities and the things you love in CloudTalk for the voice agent calls as well. So we're looking into how to improve the analytics and all the reporting capabilities to better reflect the nature of voice agent calls, because they're slightly different than the human ones, and also ensure that the hybrid communications or the hybrid calls where voice agents started and then a human took over is well reflected in analytics. Call monitoring is going to ensure that you as supervisors or your supervisors has full control over the voice agents if need be. Because yes, the LLMs are essentially a black box and they're non-deterministic. So 99.9% of the times they react some way, but there are situations where they react differently. And some of the feedback we've been hearing is customers need the control over those calls, so you will be able to easily monitor them, join them, and take over if need be. This is especially useful for highly, not problematic, but important conversation in fintech or medtech and areas like that. We'll also be extending the skills, but you don't understand what skills are just yet because that's part of the receptionist page, I now realize. But we also want to focus on the quality of the voice and the latency, because those are the two most important items in terms of making the voice agent sound as human as possible. Yes, the technology now sounding better and better every day. It's not yet at a state where people wouldn't recognize they're speaking to a voice agent in most cases, but it's getting there, and we want to ensure that we're utilizing all the newest technology to make sure that our voice agents sound as human-like as possible with the technology at the market. And integrating voice agents with our dialer, which is another power feature in CloudTalk that allows your sales teams to make more and more calls in a single day. And again, with the hybrid communication, possibly the voice agent can handle the first part of the call and then act as a pre-filter, again, ensuring that your human agents are only getting the most relevant calls in your outbound campaigns. And now let's quickly look into what a receptionist means. But before that,
I'll share a link if we would really love to hear from you. What are the features that you would need actually, and you would like us to build? But let's not stay on this slide. I'll actually share a link in the chat.
Thank you. Receptionist, a bit of a background first. It wasn't on the slides before, but the way we started with voice agent was giving you the opportunity to define your prompt, whether that was prompt for transferring call or ending the call, or the actual system prompt, how the voice agent should act during the call. This works well, but often requires help with the setup. Not everybody is efficient in prompting. There are some common do's and don'ts that we accumulated over the past year building voice agents. And we've decided to transform this into something that all of you can benefit from the knowledge that we've accumulated. You don't have to write your own prompts, and you will be able to set up some of the basic use cases that we see frequently repeating in our customer base, and leverage all the findings we did, our tech consulting did, when setting up those use cases for our customers or with our customers. And we're merging all of this information into prompts that we own and we maintain, and we want to give you the ability to just configure it and tailor it to your specific situation or setup. But the goal here is to build an interface through which you will be able to set up the most common use cases in a matter of minutes and have the voice agent up and running. So we will be starting with first a selector of the use cases. We're starting with the receptionist use case, which is an inbound use case where you want the receptionist to take the call, route it to the proper department or agent, answer some basic questions, collect messages, stuff like that. And that's the first use case we're building. And then we'll be looking also at support agents, sales assistants, and we'll also be keeping the ability to define your very own custom voice agent, of course. But let's now look at the receptionist and how the setup would look like. So there are 4 sections here. I'm going to just blaze through them with the profile. You just need to give a name to your receptionist, set the languages that you want your voice agent to speak, and pick the right voice. We'll be recommending the voices because we know right now we're offering you like 5,000 voices, and sometimes it's hard to pick the right one. So we again learned over the year which would be the best voices for which situation. So based on the languages and the use case, we'll be recommending best voices for you, but you can still choose from our full offering. And that's just a very quick like profile setup. The important part comes here with the skills. So we've aggregated the most common prompt sections and built them into predefined, pre-built prompts that you can just add, plug and play to your voice agent, slightly configure to your needs, but you don't need to write the prompts. You don't need to go through all the hoops that we already went through to figure out that how to make sure the voice agent correctly collects the customer's email and reads it back, because that's a tricky thing, right? So out of the skills we've defined for the receptionist, as I've mentioned, the receptionist will be able to take a message, extract data from the conversation and pass them to a third-party tool of your choosing, answer questions, transfer the call to humans based on some rules, and again, the ability to define your custom prompt if you need something very specific to your business or we don't have it in our offering yet. Let's just very quickly look at how the transfer is different from what it was before. So before you just chose the person who we want to transfer the call to and define the prompt that when should the call be transferred. We've again combined all the learnings. We defined the best possible transfer prompt, and now we're just asking you to define, like, in this situation, transfer the call to this person, and everything else is handled by us. What's new here as well is we want to pass the context of the conversation to the agent receiving the call. So there's a efficient handoff of the calls, and the customer doesn't have to repeat themselves. So you will be able to define, like, what are the most crucial parts of your conversation that you want the human agent who's receiving the call to see instantly when they're receiving the call transfer. Let's look at the next section, which is knowledge base. Again, a few improvements compared to the current state. Right now, you can only upload files into the voice agent. What often comes up is your files are dynamic, whether that's your service or product portfolio that is dynamically generated from your systems, or it's a price list or something like that. So we want to give you the ability to link publicly shared document, whether it's on your Google Drive or an S3 bucket or whatever. You take the URL, you give it to us, and we will frequently, and when the voice agent conversation is triggered, we will fetch that file from the remote location where it's handled and managed by you or your systems. And this will be attached to the knowledge base, as well as the option to maintain the file and edit the file within CloudTalk. Otherwise, same as before. And but not least, we are defining the common behavior of a receptionist. We define the common flow and common goal for the receptionist and the common situations we've learned from our customers, but we understand every customer has different needs and different situations happens on their call, and wanted to give you an ability to quickly and easily be able to iterate those situations. And this might happen as you already have the voice agent up and running and you're checking the calls and you realize, okay, here it didn't behave exactly as I would hope so I can refine. And you will simply come here and you will be able to define scenarios such as, like, when this happens on the call, reply this way, or take this action. And the action could be anything from sending an SMS. Those are our tools. So all the third-party integrations that you're using in real time for voice agents, you'll be able to define in which scenarios the voice agent should react in what way. So we're building a nice and easy to maintain interface. So it's so much simpler than to keep coming back to 5,000 line long prompt and finding the section where you're defining when should it send an SMS and how should it reply to requests to send the SMS. And I think that's it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
For the preview, Peter. And I'm gonna stop sharing just to be able to see the questions.
Let's answer. Can we send a follow-up email with the answers, or how many questions do we have?
Yes. So we only have 3 questions right now. Maybe let's take these three live. So the first question is, which 60 languages are available? I have a whole document on that, and I am able to send it together with the recording and slides. You'll get that. All right. Then there's a question, how does it match with the 36 accents? I guess, how do the languages match with the accents? If I understand it correctly.
Honestly, not sure about those specific numbers, but if you open the interface for every language that we have, there are several different accents. I think those 36 are for the main languages or something like that, because I believe there are far more accents for the voices that we have in the offering. So like for every language we support, there's at least a few different accents for each language.
Okay. And let's take maybe one more. So what is the maximum file size for the knowledge base?
I honestly don't know the maximum file size for a single file. I know there's a limit. I'll follow up on that. I have to check with the engineering team. But as for the overall size of the knowledge base with the voice agent, it's basically unlimited. You can upload as many documents as you want. We have a RAG system in place, so we're effectively indexing all the files that you attach and making sure that the response is as fast and as precise as possible. So you don't need to really limit yourself with the information attached. But as always, we strongly recommend only attaching the files that are highly relevant to the voice agent, because the more information you give to LLMs, the more confused they might get. So attach as many files as the voice agent needs, but make sure to keep the content relevant for the voice agent use case.
Would you mind if we take one more question, Peter?
Let's go for it.
Okay. Can an agent be set to only operate during certain hours? So let's say from 6 p.m. to 7 a.m. We have global customers who want to call leads that come in when our office is shut.
Yes. So a quick answer is yes, because currently the outbound calls are triggered through an API. And we often set up such scenarios for our customers when we have 10,000 leads and we only want to call them within the business hours, but the leads are from different time zones. So as long as your input data or your customer list has the information about which time zone does the customer sit in, you can set up the triggers through tools like Zapier or Make or from your system or even from HubSpot to always just pull the leads that are currently within their business hours and call those. So even if you're not operating across multiple business hours, that's even easier. You just run the triggers at the times that's within your business hours. And if your list has multiple time zones, then it gets a bit more tricky, but there's a solution for that as well. And please reach to our customer support or your sales representative, and they'll get you in touch with people who can help you set that up. But we've done that numerous times. And a bit of a teaser for the campaign integration that I mentioned before. That's exactly why we're building this. Make it easier to trigger the outbound campaigns where you have a large list of customers. You just upload it, define in which times should it call and where to store the results. But that's something we're looking at roughly Q2 this year.
Perfect. Thank you, Peter, for answering all of those. We hope the session was valuable and will continue actually next year. So we'll keep seeing you on these webinars. Perfect. Have a good day, everyone, and talk to you soon.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.